Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of Council to order. Our clerk today will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. I'd ask for a procedural motion to proceed in camera, please. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 26th regular meeting of Council. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. Tonight's council meeting will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw Bylaw 2018, number 7272. Question period sign-up sheet is by the double doors to my left for agenda items only, and if during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question related to an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the sheet. Members have been granted the authority to join electronically, and I'm pretty sure Councillor Brown, if he's not on already, will be here shortly. There he is, see? Ask and it shall be given. First item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. The first late item is the addition of the minutes from the Public Safety Committee meeting that was held in the Boardroom Service and Resource Center on Wednesday, 2024, February 21st at 4 p.m., as well as the addition of the under consent items, the recommendation from the Public Safety Committee meeting held the same day. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Hemmens, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. With respect to the Mayor's report, I just have a few items this evening. The first, and I'm very happy to repeat what was announced on Valentine's Day, December the 14th. And that is the unveiling of the new utility covers designed by Snuneymuxw artists Joel Good and the sisters at Ilalem, integrating traditional Snuneymuxw art into the urban landscape. Now, I have had some people misunderstand. They have a vision that we're going to be replacing every utility cover in the city in the next few months at an enormous waste of taxpayers' dollars. Now, I just want to assure everyone that the announcement is that we will be replacing them as they are required to be replaced. And Mr. Sims is here tonight, and he'll confirm if I'm incorrect, but I believe we have something in the order of 18,000 in the city, some of them very old, some of them not so old. We anticipate installing 20 to 40 each year, but what it means quite simply is everywhere across the 91.3 square kilometers of the wonderful city of Nanaimo, you're going to see something at your feet that's actually beautiful. And supports local artists and is at no extra expense than having a very pedestrian-looking utility cover. So this truly is something to celebrate in our community, and I hope those who think the public money is being wasted in copious amounts will understand completely that is absolutely not the case. So congratulations to Public Works for this initiative. I'm very pleased. Next, the city launches a new environmental projects grant. We've issued grants for application for watershed restoration and other environmental and sustainability projects. It's now open. And beginning on February the 12th, we've been accepting applications for 2 separate grants providing funding for environmental projects that will help implement the goals of our city plan, which is the plan governing how we're going to build and develop in this city, which was the result of the input of thousands of citizens of Nanaimo. We hope that the applications and what they're proposing to do will improve livability in our community. Restoration projects may focus on parks, urban stream and riparian enhancement, natural environment protection, and climate change adaptation solutions. Community watershed restoration grants will provide up to $20,000 and be available annually to community organizations, environmental nonprofits, and individual residents that aim to carry out watershed restoration projects. This is another good news announcement, and I hope that everyone will take advantage of it. The application deadline is 4 p.m. on Tuesday, April the 2nd, 2024. Go to the grants page on the city website, and please make an application. And finally, want to confirm the announcement on February 20th of the selection of 2024 temporary public art. And this includes projects by Robert Turf and Elliot Whitehill, or Kowalselson. Don't want to confuse him with his father. We're happy to announce the selection of the 2 new public art projects by these artists. It's a sound installation, firstly, that will recontextualize space and our understanding of Snuneymuxw territory, the land upon which the city of Nanaimo has been built. Site-specific installation using outdoor speakers and recorded sounds of species of animals, birds, insects indigenous to the area will be discreetly placed throughout the old city quarter. They will serve as an artistic intervention in the urban landscape and draw traditional Snuneymuxw knowledge and stories about the land back to the surface. Rewilders by Robert Turf will involve the creation of a collection of sculptural creatures, the shape and form of which will be developed through community workshops. Inspired by themes in science fiction, the creatures will symbolically engage in plant management, demonstrating tasks like invasive plant removal and native plant cultivation, thereby fostering resilience to climate change and encouraging beneficial environmental habitats. If you want to learn more about this, please go to the Temporary Arts Program page at www.nanaimo.ca. And that's it for my report tonight. We have nothing to rise and report on this evening, Ms. Gurry. We have no presentations. Committee minutes are simply for receipt. I'm going to ask for a motion for adoption of consent items, and there's a couple of things I want removed myself. So if I could have a motion to adopt. Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe, and I would ask us to consider 10A1 separately and 10C. Anyone else wish to have anything withdrawn from the consent agenda? If not, Councillor Gesselbrock?
No, I was asking to pull 10A1, but...
Sorry?
10A1, but I think you just pulled it.
Thank you. Very good. Sorry?
I would like to pull 10C.
I said 10C already.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Missed that.
So the only one we're voting on is actually 10B. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. With respect to 10A1, I have simply...
I was opposed, Your Worship.
Sorry.
10B.
You're small on the screen tonight, Councillor Brown. Forgive me.
Just registering my opposition to 10B, the lone one in the consent agenda.
Thank you. And Councillor Armstrong as well. So it's 7-2. With respect to 10A1, there has been some controversy about the understanding of why Council is repealing the existing school zone signing guidelines policy and adopting the new school zone signing policy. And I would appreciate it if Mr. Sims could just review that a little bit for us tonight. I think it's important the public understand we are not moving away from public safety with this. Mr. Sims, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. Yeah, I think, as you just mentioned, the motion that is before you tonight is to rescind the existing 1990s vintage school zone policy, which does not comply with the ability to enforce speed limits in accordance with the Motor Vehicle Act. And it's been fairly inconsistently applied around Nanaimo. So the proposed policy does deal with that consistency, will comply with the Motor Vehicle Act, And it'll be consistent with not only within Nanaimo, but also with other jurisdictions within British Columbia. And so school zones that are specifically signed for 30-kilometer-an-hour speed limit is in the Motor Vehicle Act, comply with all kinds of national standards as well as the MVA. It's only enforceable during school days between 8 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon. And what the Motor Vehicle Act says, and case law from British Columbia cases, says it has to be within, sort of in view of the school itself. So the city, as your worship has noted many times, has a traffic safety committee that consists of ICBC, city staff, the RCMP, the school district staff, and and that's it. That particular committee's reviewed the policy and they've found it to be quite acceptable and supportable. And it's based on best practice from the Transportation Advisory Committee of Canada. So essentially the policy now has a decision matrix that will allow staff to consider school zones and school areas on a case-by-case basis. And likewise, the rollout occurs in consultation with each school, as opposed to a blanket rollout and all of, not without its communication. So effectively, what will result is school zones in enforceable areas will remain as signed 30-kilometer-an-hour. Outside that, there'll be still a school area, and it just won't have that 30-kilometer-an-hour speed, but it will have the school zone or the school caution signs for driver awareness. So I hope that helps, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sims. Councillors Kesselbrock and then Brown, please, and Armstrong.
Thanks, Your Worship. I definitely understand the need to be in line with the MVA, and I think ultimately what rescinding this policy is going to mean is that we are going to have to take down some 30-kilometer-an-hour signs in long-standing school zones in the community, and I think that is a bit alarming, rightly so, to some folks, and I think that there might be another pathway forward that we should explore before doing this, and I'd like to put forward an alternate motion. I'd like to move that staff present options at a GPC to make enforceable 30-kilometer-an-hour speed limits in high-risk pedestrian areas such as near schools.
Is there a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Eastmere.
And
Ms. Gurry, have you got that?
Not entirely, Your Worship, so I may get Councillor Kesselbrock to repeat it once you are ready to vote on it and get it written for the minutes.
okay, just to repeat it, that staff present options at a GPC to make enforceable 30-kilometer-an-hour speed limits in high-risk pedestrian areas such as near schools. And to speak to it?
Please.
Thank you. I'm seeing Duncan reduce speed limits to 30 kilometers an hour, and I believe some work's been done in Saanich, and I know Sydney, BC is also looking at reducing speed limits to 30 kilometers an hour in some select areas in the city. And I do think, and it was spoken at the GPC, that there is a pathway to be able to do this in the municipality that we could explore. And I think it would behoove us to explore that first, because if we can lower speed limits in certain sections and we have the authority to do that, that we go ahead and do that first. And then when we need to rescind the bylaw, we can maintain the 30-kilometer speed limits in these long-standing areas that have been there, and they just simply aren't under the sort of school zone umbrella of the MVA. So that is the logic behind doing this first, and then going to, we rightly so do have to align ourselves with the MVA, but it's been outstanding for 8 years now, and I don't think a few more months is going to be an issue, however long it takes to explore other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Your Worship. I had raised my hand just to, I was going to register opposition to this item. I did watch the GPC. Sorry, I was to the original motion. I did watch the GPC, and I 100% appreciate the logic presented there. That around complying with provincial legislation, that all made sense, and it was the legal thing, but I don't think it was the right thing. And I'm happy to actually support and see this just slight change of direction here that Councillor Gesselbrock proposed. I actually think that there should be a two-step process. The first is to put in place a solution in areas that we know people are going too fast, in particular around some select schools. And that would be excellent to get in place before we make changes to this policy. So highly support it. And, we do have the tools to make this happen. Councillor Gesselbrock highlighted them. I won't go into them again. So we can, with a little creativity, I think get around some of the items where the MVA falls short, and it's not entirely pragmatic on the ground. And so we can make those changes. Undoubtedly, signage is just one thing. Ultimately, I think we need to make some road changes, but it's better than nothing. And so I hope council will support this alternate direction. And thank you to Councillor Gesselbrock for proposing it.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Sims. Mr. Sims, if we ever instituted a reduction in the speed limits to say 30 in given areas, does that have to apply, and does it apply 24/7?
Your Worship, that's correct. It would be, rather than the school as 8 to 5 during school days, it would be 365 days a year, 24/7. It'd be essentially a speed zone similar to Departure Bay as 40K as an example.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
And would that be done under the Motor Vehicle Act, or would that have to be a City of Nanaimo traffic bylaw, which is what Duncan had to do in order to change it?
Worship, it would be a bylaw on the part of city. It would, I think, as Councillor Brown mentioned, or Councillor Gesselbrock, I should say, pardon me, it would be a two-step process. We'd sort of conduct a review citywide to see where it's appropriate to have 30 km/h zones, and then bring that forward in a bylaw.
So then the RCMP would not be able to enforce it under the Motor Vehicle Act. It would only be enforced under, because it now becomes a municipal bylaw, so it has to be enforced. You have to have enforcement on your municipal bylaw ticket. So it's a huge procedure. I'm not voting in favor of this. I know the school zones in question. I don't think speeding is a major issue in those. We've only had 2 emails on this. It's been well advertised in the public, so I don't see it as a big issue, so won't vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Himmons and Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Worship. I think I'm going to ask the same question that Councillor Armstrong did, but so say that we step outside of the MVA and we decide that we want 30 km/h zones in the city, who is responsible for enforcing that?
Your Worship, I don't want to misspeak here, and so I'm not clear 100%.
Councillor Armstrong?
RCMP can enforce the bylaw. But we would have to have, what is the fine going to be? We're going to have a system for dispute of the tickets. Like Vancouver, they write tickets under their municipal bylaw, and you don't go to traffic court, you go to their municipal traffic court. So it's a huge process, which will probably take a lot of time for 3 schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Himmons, anything further?
I register the objection. I share a number of the concerns. I voted in favor. But I do hear that there maybe is some things we haven't considered or some avenues we haven't explored. So I'm happy to have a report come back. I'm hearing there's other jurisdictions, Saanich, Duncan, et cetera, that we can draw from, to learn from. So I'm going to support the report, but I am very skeptical, because if we are going to create new restrictions for drivers, we have to figure out a way to enforce it. And that would require saying to the RCMP, we need, I'm not seeing school zone traffic a high priority for Nanaimo RCMP right now, and that would require us to negotiate with them. And so thank you.
All right, Councillor Perino, then Councillor Armstrong. Okay, then Councillor Gesselbrock after Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. The struggle is, I don't want to restrict drivers from going 50 to now down to 30, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's unreasonable. And when we do that, we put up a 30 per hour, right, sign, whereas we would be taking down the sign that clearly shows the 2 children and the 30 below it, if that's the case. I do not see that as a benefit, because I think people are much more apt to speed, but if they see that this is actually a school area, they're much more anxious to be careful, because there are children present, and often, if they're short or whatever, you can't necessarily see them above your, the dash and that kind of thing. So for me, I understand what Councillor Kesselbrook's trying to do, and I appreciate that with great respect. However, I would prefer to see us leave the school zone signs up, and if we can, leave them at 30, because then we know that during the school hours, 5 days a week, at least it gives the students coverage, and the families that live in that area, it gives them a sense of safety. If the RCMP are saying no to the 30, at least, for goodness sakes, leave the sign up showing the children, so that people know there are children in this area. Or, something creative to that extent. I'm sorry, I just can't support it the way it is with just a 30 sign. It's not enough.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock?
Thank you. I think removing a long-standing school zone sign enforcement of 30 is a big deal, and I think it behooves us to do a little bit more due diligence on what are the options. There definitely need to be more clarity on what exactly does enforcement entail, what are the parameters around how often, like this 30 kilometers, is there no means to be able to restrict the time of it? These are all things that I think that having more information is important, and seeing what other jurisdictions are doing for making, a pretty substantial move. And so if this delays the process by a couple months, something that's already been outstanded by 8 months or 8 years, I think that we can afford a little bit extra time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley, then Councillor Eastmere.
Well, I think I'm going to support this. It's more information is always helpful, and I think safety is paramount. The question I have for staff, just going back to Councillor Perino's point about there's a school zone, which is under the Motor Vehicle Act, and then there's the school area, which would have just that sign of children in the area. We can't put the 30 kilometers underneath that sign, but we could still have a 30-kilometer sign in those school areas with those children signs. They would just have to be separated. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Worship. That's so. In the areas where it would be enforceable, we'd have a 30-kilometer-an-hour tab under the yellow sign. In areas where it's not enforceable under the Motor Vehicle Act, currently, we'd leave the school area signs up. So it's essentially, it's not indicating a 30-kilometer zone, it's just indicating that it's a school area.
And if we did decide to make 30-kilometer zones, we could leave those school area signs up and have the 30-kilometer-an-hour sign separate from those signs, right?
I think you could, Your Worship. Yeah, it's, apart from it's not a school zone. Like if it's not a school zone, if it's a 30-kilometer, if it's a justifiable 30-kilometer-an-hour area, speed zone, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, that you can pick and choose where that is. It doesn't have to be in the same location.
Okay. I can see just from the reaction from council that there's uncertainty here, and I think certainty is a better thing to go with. So I would vote for a report and defer the decision for now until we have more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I'm going to support this recommendation for a lot of the reasons raised, and obviously the safety of children in our neighborhoods is paramount, and I don't want to rush ahead with anything that could put that at risk. And I wish I felt like people were getting better at driving. I don't feel like that when I'm out on the roads. So I would also like to see this referred to the new Public Safety Committee for comment. I think this could be a good first item, and we have some people with a lot of experience in traffic issues on that committee. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think Councillor Eastmere's suggestion just now is an excellent one, and that is to refer this to the Public Safety Committee. And I'm not sure if we need a motion to proceed in that direction. I'm not prepared to support the motion that's on the floor from Councillor Gesselbrock, because I think it's moving away from the initial topic that we were talking about, school zone policy. And this potentially opens the door to changing speed limits in other areas of the city and creating a new bylaw and the resulting difficulties associated with that. So I think that's too broad sweeping a brush, and I will not support that. However, I would welcome input from the Public Safety Committee and hear what they have in terms of thoughts on this. Thank you.
Ms. Gurry, given there's a motion on the floor,
thank you, Your Worship. I think a subsequent motion after this one to defer the matter, should this motion pass, to defer it to the Public Safety Committee as well, would be in order.
thank you very much. For what it's worth, I'm not going to support the motion. We had a report. We understood what the issues were. With great respect, moving the city towards instituting a 30-kilometer zone strikes me as overkill. I hate to use that language. The reality is that a law that can't be enforced is a bad law. We have enough trouble now in complaints about the limited abilities of the RCMP to enforce all kinds of other laws, whether they be under the Criminal Code or the Motor Vehicle Act. And this, given the public response to this, a couple of emails is not going to move my position on it, so I won't be supporting the motion, and if it does pass, I will certainly support referring it to the Public Safety Committee. Instead of expecting, frankly, our overworked staff, particularly in the transportation area, that we know is not able to respond in a timely way to many concerns and complaints that are substantial, I'm not prepared to burden them with further items on their already lengthy agenda, particularly after the tax increase we're seeking from the citizens of Nanaimo. So, seeing no other speakers, all those in favor of the motion, Councillors Eastmere, Gesselbrock, Hemmens, Manley, and Brown, and those opposed, Councillors Armstrong, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Perino. The motion carries. Councillor Thorpe, do you want to make the motion now?
Yes, if it's appropriate, Your Worship. There we go, thank you. If it's appropriate, I will move that this topic be referred to the Public Safety Committee for their thoughts.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. Discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Not seeing any. Referred to the committee. Thank you very much. We're now on to 10. Yes. You want to speak to it, Councillor?
Yes, Your Worship, I would like to make an amendment, please. After doing some further research, I would like to refer this item back to staff to ensure that the standing presentation item complies with our policies, or have some other options back to address the issue.
All right. Is there a seconder? Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. We're now on to delegations unrelated to agenda items. We have no one. On to reports. The first is 12A, Development Variance Permit Application Number DVP 460-900 5th Street, Vancouver Island University. Mr. Holm, good evening.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you. We have a development variance permit for Vancouver Island University. Property address is 900 5th Street, outlined in red on the screen. What's proposed is a 10-story student housing building. It's proposed currently as 266 student housing beds, as well as student support services, amenity space, and food services. It's been supported by a grant from funding from the province, and is a significant addition to student housing on the university campus. The proposal here, though, is for a variance, a height variance. Predominantly, there is a minor retaining wall variance as well, retaining wall height, but the building height variance request is from 14 meters to 33 meters. The CS1 zone that the property is zoned currently has a 14-meter height, maximum height allowable. The property is actually within the secondary urban center, the Vancouver Island University Secondary Urban Center, which supports building heights similar to what you're seeing here. 10 stories would be supportable by policy, but because of the zoning, a variance is required to the height proposed there. If you could bring up attachment E, it's the drawings aren't really polished, but the building elevations are shown there, and it gives you an idea of the height variance requested. They're happy to take any questions on this. Of course, notification has already taken place prior to council's consideration. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Manley?
I'd like to move the
No.
question first. I do have a question.
Yes, but I have to give an opportunity to anyone who wishes to speak to this.
Sorry.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to development variance permit application number DVP 460-900 5th Street, Vancouver Island University? Seeing none, Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you. Once Bill C-44 is completely in play, will this is near a transit hub, a transit exchange, will that, we wouldn't be looking at this variance at all, would we?
Yeah, that's a great question, through your worship, to Councillor Manley's question. It is a good question. Actually, Bill 47 does not actually require proactive zoning of the property, but what it would do is look at, I guess, limit what council would be allowed to look at if property is rezoned. So building height and density up to the provincial minimums stated through the legislation would not be subject to consideration through a rezoning, but other matters could be. But yeah, you're right for pointing that out. If a rezoning application were received for land within a transit-oriented area through the provincial legislation, the council would not be able to turn down that application strictly based on the densities allowable by the province and the height allowable by the province.
Okay. Well, I'm prepared to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seconded, Councillor Perino. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is, for 12B and the conflict.
I sit on a board that presently, we rent that building and we're in lease with it, so I think it could be determined a conflict. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong. I'll give you a minute. So, development permit application number DP 1299-880 Hecate Street. Mr. Holm, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an 8-unit infill project in the Old City. You can see on the screen outlined in red, and it's on Hecate Street near Medea Way, a 3.5-story building form, and it's a good infill project within the Old City, and subject to development permit approval with requested variances related to siting and size of the building, fence height, and a small car variance from 40% allowable to 50% allowable small car parking stalls. The proposal is consistent with applicable development permit area guidelines, the general design guidelines, as well as the Old City multifamily design guidelines that would apply there. There's the height variance shown by the red line. It's quite minor relative to the overall development, and a good infill project in the Old City. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Not seeing any. Someone moved the recommended motion. Councillor Hemmons, seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. If someone can bring Councillor Armstrong back in. Excuse me. The next is 12C, development permit application number DP 1321-345 Newcastle Avenue and 360 Stewart Avenue. Again, Mr. Holm, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is one that Council will actually be familiar with. It's actually an amendment to an existing approved development permit. Previous development permit was approved in April of 2022. There's some minor amendments proposed which trigger another consideration of the development permit approval, as well as the application, or the previously approved development permits coming up on the 2-year time limit that they're valid for. Properties are outlined in red over on the screen. The properties in the Newcastle neighborhood, and what's proposed are 17 units and minor additional height variance. Height variance of 1 meter was requested previously. What's proposed now is 1.5 meters, so from 14 meters to 15.5 meters for some minor changes to the building design. You can see that outlined on the building elevations there. And again, 17 units. One of the variances requested relates to enclosure of the parking area, which actually should be beneficial to the neighbors, and will be improved with some updated screening as well. So happy to take any questions on this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any questions. Councillor Thorpe moves the recommendation, seconded Councillor Perino. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None, motion carries. Thank you. The next is development permit application number DP 1294-6004 Nelson Road. Mr. Holm.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is another one that'll be familiar to council. It was subject to rezoning approved in 2022. Rezoning was from R1 to R6. So anticipating a townhome style development, which is actually what's proposed here. So this is the development permit, 16 units proposed in a townhouse form, and within 4 buildings, 4 pods of 4 buildings. It's located quite near school and elementary school, and the units are proposed as 3-bedroom units, which is a nice addition to family housing in the area. Minor setback variances are requested. Otherwise, the proposal is consistent with the applicable zoning regulations and the applicable development permit area guidelines. It's been to design panel with recommendations that have been reviewed and addressed by the applicant. I'm happy to take questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Seeing no questions, moved Councillor Hammond, seconded Councillor Perino. I must say this is just the kind of densification we want to see. Councillor Hammond.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I just want to say 4 2-story townhouse buildings, each with 4 residential units, each is going to have 3 bedrooms. That's exactly what people need. Yeah, thank you.
There will be a lot of very happy families in Nanaimo when these come on market. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holm. Thank you. We're on to electric vehicle supply equipment cost recovery bylaw. Mr. Sims, it shows you as introducing, but...
Thank you, Your Worship. Just briefly, your GPC of a few weeks ago outlined the case for charging for electrical vehicle charge use that the city currently provides at its facilities, currently for free. Ms. McCaskill has presented to you there, and she'll outline the 3 bylaws in front of you for your consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Good evening, Mayor, Council. As just identified, there was an information report to GPC outlining an opportunity for some cost recovery, specifically for a amenity that benefits a certain portion of the population, but not everybody. And so tonight it is the report for decision that outlines the new bylaw that is required, as well as amendment to 2 existing bylaws. The first bylaw was the subject of that information report, identifying opportunity, like I said, to recover costs associated with folks using those EV chargers. Because of that proposed bylaw, there is an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw, so future amendments to pricing associated with the cost recovery would be through the regular fees and charges process. And then the second existing bylaw that would require amendment is the bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw, which allows for the enforcement of the use of the EV stalls. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Ms. Miskill?
McCaskill.
Oh, I wasn't even close, I apologize.
That's okay.
I don't currently have an electric vehicle. I'm just wondering, how does it work when people go there? And when will it start working? When will this, should this pass tonight, when will it begin?
Excellent question, through Your Worship. The proposed start date is June the 1st. This gives some opportunity for communication to the public and users. The infrastructure that we use is from a manufacturer called ChargePoint, and they do have a dashboard that staff has access to that we can use for digital messaging right at point of sale. So we can message out through there, also communications plan to make sure everybody knows that as of June the 1st, should this pass tonight, we would be implementing a cost for service. In terms of how it works is anybody who has an electric vehicle typically has some sort of app on their phone, and you would tap that phone next to the charger. You can also tap your credit card. Currently, you still have to tap a credit card to activate the station because it cuts down on vandalism.
Okay.
But you would then tap your card, and then it unlocks the charging head, plug it in, and then the whole thing is managed through our service provider.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's great.
Councillor Manley?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious about the cost is 2.5 cents per minute. Is there a comparison between what the hydro rate is, and was there kind of a cost analysis between what we're charged by hydro and what we would be collecting through this fee?
Good question again, thank you. Through Your Worship, the cost, electric services through large corporations are actually quite complicated compared to residential. These chargers are connected to what are called medium and large services, and they're billed differently. And so approximate numbers, we pay about 13 cents per kilowatt hour for the power. We do have other things called demand charges that are associated with our costs. So the cost analysis was completed based on the 13 cents per kilowatt hour. But the problem that we ran into when running the analysis is we could not recover the cost of the infrastructure at 13 cents. We pay back to Hydro 13 cents, and right now that is the amount that the BC Utility Commission has capped BC Hydro at charging. They've recently petitioned for some additional leeway for specific electric vehicles, and they have not been granted that permission yet. So there isn't really any precedent to be using anything greater than 13 cents a kilowatt hour, and that wouldn't allow us to then recover the cyclical renewals associated. So not only is there a cost for the service, but we as staff continue to renew these assets. They have a 12-year service life. There's vandalism, there's maintenance costs, there's cloud networking costs that go with this stuff. And so because of the way it's structured, we have to choose between a cost per kilowatt hour or a time cost. And so when we did the analysis, the time cost was the way that we could actually get a reasonable approximation to what it's costing the city. And then that 2.5 cents was based on a report that we received from KPMG that outlined for those municipalities that are charging, it's kind of middle of the road for what folks are charging, but it is flexible if council were to decide that a different number would be appropriate.
Okay. I was always under the impression that we can't charge for hydro. We can only charge for meter time or, for parking lot time. Is that correct, or has that changed?
Through Your Worship, I believe there was an amendment to the Utility Act that specifically allows folks that have been deemed to be resellers, and because we sell gas and power for our existing fleet vehicles, we have the appropriate designation. So we could go that route, but then we're bound under a different stream, essentially, of revenue.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. As a councillor who drives a plug-in hybrid car and charges my car at home or charges at different charge points spots around the community, I have no problem at all with this. I think it's appropriate to pay cost recovery for this kind of system. So thank you for the report, and I'm supporting this.
Thank you. So, Councillor Armstrong, not seeing anyone else? you're the acting mayor. You're on.
Thank you. Motion that council give first reading to electric vehicle recharging bylaw 2024, number 7365, a bylaw to collect electric vehicle supply equipment and energy cost charges within the city of Nanaimo.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that council give second reading to electric vehicle recharging bylaw 2024, number 7365.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that council give third reading to electric vehicle recharging bylaw 2024, number 7365.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is the fees and charges amendment bylaw. Councillor Armstrong, please.
Motion that council give first reading to fees and charges amendment bylaw 2024, number 7336.07, a bylaw to add electric vehicle charging connection fees.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that council give second reading to fees and charges amendment bylaw 2024, number 7336.07.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that council give third reading to fees and charges amendment bylaw 2024, number 7336.07.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Finally, bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw. Councillor Armstrong, please.
Motion that council give first reading to bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw 2024, number 7159.19, a bylaw to assign fines associated with electric vehicle charging.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that council give second reading to bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw 2024, number 7159.19.
Seconded Councillor Perino. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that council give third reading to bylaw notice enforcement amendment bylaw 2024, number 7159.19.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. And we're on to F, Property Disposition District Lot 9 lands. Mr. Corson, please. Thank you, Mr. Gaskell.
Great, thanks, Your Worship. This evening, staff are seeking council approval to dispose of a city-owned parcel of land known as District Lot 9 to the Ministry of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. District Lot 9 is 81 hectares in size, which is 200 acres. It's located on the southwest slope of Tatuxton or Mount Benson, and on the image here you can see it's identified as City of Nanaimo District DL9, 200 acres. The land surrounding it was provincial crown land, which has already been transferred to Sinamic First Nation. So the city of parcel land the city owns is kind of the donut in the whole. So by transferring this land to the province, it will complete the acquisition for Sinamic First Nation. The property is currently undeveloped. It's heavily forested. The city originally purchased the land for a water system, which is no longer used, so the land is surplus. A dam was built at the time and the water was diverted to the city water system. Again, that system was shut down many years ago, and it's just been a piece of land that sat in our inventory until the right opportunity came up. If council were to approve this evening, the lands will transfer to the province, and the province will then transfer the lands to Sinamic. And this is a project that's really been a collaborative effort between the city, the province, and Sinamic in terms of reconciliation. In addition to transferring the lands to the province, the city is being compensated for the value of the lands. We had an appraisal done and a timber cruise of the land, and the city will receive $1,455,000 for this transfer. And that money will go into the city's land reserve, and then we can use that for other acquisitions the city may wish to undertake, whether that's affordable housing or other council priorities. So very happy to answer any questions you have, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Corson. It's a good news story. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. It is a good news story, and I just wanted to ask, from a perspective of the city, is there anything that we would have needed to keep this land for, because I can't see it, like you said, it's the donut in the middle of the, you know, it's a perfect opportunity, and we're doing the right thing. So I just wonder, is there a need to keep it in the city at all? Was there background?
Through your worship, Councillor Perino, no, we looked at this property. Mr. Sims is quite familiar with it
Yes.
in his previous role of looking after the water system.
Okay.
It's land that really was surplus. There could have been some harvesting done, but in this way, we're transferring the lands to Synamic, and our understanding is one of their goals is to put this in as part of their land inventory for future forest activities.
Excellent, excellent. I'd be happy to put the motion on the floor, your worship.
So moved. Seconder, Councillor Eastmere. Any need for discussion? Let me just say that this is very much, as I said earlier, a good news story for both Synamic First Nation and the city of Nanaimo. This land has absolutely no value or use to us whatsoever, and we are pressured constantly to acquire properties within city limits that would be extremely useful, valuable for public purposes. So delighted, and congratulations to staff who spent time negotiating and working on this. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next is yours as well, Mr. Corson. 421 Prideaux Street, acceptance of project under revitalization tax exemption bylaw 2018, number 7261. Please.
Great, thank you, Your Worship. So tonight we're seeking council's approval to accept this project into the Downtown Revitalization Taxation Program. This is a 16-unit multifamily project. Again, very similar to the previous projects Mr. Holm was talking about, a good infill project in the downtown core. Under this agreement, the owner would have to have the building permit picked up by this August of this year and have the project completed by August 31st of 2026. We've reviewed this project against the terms of the revised tax exemption program that council discussed in the November 27th GPC, and this project would be in alignment with council's direction on the future program. So we'd, from staff perspective, we'd recommend this be accepted tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino. Sorry, Councillor Gesselbrock beat you to it.
Trumps me.
by
Go
10
ahead.
seconds, I think. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Oh, just a question through you. This request for tax exemption is in alignment. However, it would be for a 10-year period and not a 5-year period, as in the revised.
Yeah, through your worship, Councillor Gesselbrock, correct. So we're still we have not amended the bylaw yet. So this complies with the current bylaw and would comply with the proposed bylaw amendments. But at the moment, you have a 10-year program, so this would be for 10 years.
And just to follow up, when do we foresee it says spring, but the new bylaw to be coming forward to council?
Yeah, through your worship, Councillor Gesselbrock, we just received the draft last week, so we should be getting into that, hoping by the April meeting.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Perino.
Similar question. Thank you, your worship. To Mr. Corson, I'm struggling with this one, but they certainly qualify within the tax exemption time of the 10 years because of the date now, but they would not qualify for it after the bylaw is passed. Is that correct?
Through your worship, Councillor Perino, no, this project would still
Would it still?
Would still be acceptable.
That's what I wanted to hear.
It's just in your recommendation to staff was to amend the bylaw from being a 10-year tax exemption to 5 years.
But this would be under the.
This is under the current program, which is 10 years.
So, but what I'm saying is once that bylaw is passed, then it would be only 5 years.
If they delayed their application until.
That's right.
Well then, yes.
So that's my point. They're getting this in under the time allotment, so it's appropriate for us to be voting for this under the time,
Correct.
the 10-year, right?
Yeah, through your worship, I would anticipate you'll have a few more coming to you once people know when the new bylaw is effective.
That's exactly it. You know, in fairness, obviously we want to change it to the 5-year tax exemption, but in fairness, they've got this in on the time. So, you know, I can't see a reason for not voting for it, so thank you.
Would you care to move the motion?
I would, thank you.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Hemmons, discussion? Councillor Gesselbrock?
Yeah,
Sorry. You're on.
I'm on? Okay, cool. Yeah, just to speak to this, I've been opposed for quite a while of the exemption program because its scope was way too broad. Things that were only 4 units were in it. The duration was too long for 10 years. And even the geographic area, and I don't know if we did change that, but to be consistent, I can't support this one under the old policy. Just the duration of 10 years it's too much of a subsidy to a private development from the public purse. I'm much more favorable to the new policy once that's in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No further discussion. All those in favor, Councillors Armstrong, Hemmens, Mayor Krogh, Thorpe, Perino. All those opposed, Councillors Eastmere, Brown, Manley, and Brown. Kesselbrock, sorry, did I? No, I hope not. In any event, it passes. 13, bylaws. Councillor.
A motion that financial plan amendment bylaw 2024 number 7359.02 to amend the 2023 to 2027 financial plan be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmens. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Next is the notice of motion that Councillor Manley's given notice of. Councillor Manley.
Notice of motion?
Thank you.
With a spelling error in it, it should be planes, not plans. Hopefully fix that for the next round.
Maybe with elections approaching, we'll get lucky and have influence with the province and the feds. Other business is the Radio Malaspina Society CHLY 101-7 FM request for letter of support re-grant application to Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program. Someone care to make the motion? Move Councillor Armstrong. Do we have a seconder? Second, Councillor Hemmens. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Question period, Ms. Gurry? We have nothing. Well, Councillor Armstrong. Seconded. Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Thank you very much, Council. Thank you to staff for attending, and thank you to the public for attending as always.